Take a moment right now and look at the people around you, not with judgment, just with honest observation. You will notice that most of them are being carried by life rather than directing it. They complain constantly about their job, their circumstances, their relationships, their luck. They wake up in the same frustration, repeat the same arguments, chase the same hollow pleasures, and fall asleep with the same quiet sense that something is missing. Every single day, they return to the same cycle. A little older, a little more tired, and a little more certain that this is simply how life is. But then there is a different group, a small one, quiet, almost invisible at first glance. They do not shout about their goals or broadcast their hustle. They do not seek validation from the crowd or wait for someone to hand them permission. They move differently, not faster necessarily, but with a depth and direction that most people never develop. While the world reacts, they respond. While the world consumes, they create. While the world drifts, they build. These people belong to the 1%, not the financial 1%, though many of them get there eventually. The psychological 1%, the ones who have developed a mental operating system that most people do not even know exists. And here is the question that most people never think to ask. Is this something you are born with? Is it reserved for the gifted, the privileged, the lucky few who somehow stumbled into the right circumstances? The answer, and this is the most important thing you will hear today, is absolutely not. This is a learnable system, a trainable set of mental habits, a way of thinking that can be developed, practiced, and applied to every single area of your life. Carl Jung spent his entire career studying the architecture of the human mind, and what he found was this: most people are sleepwalking through their own existence, driven by unconscious patterns they have never examined. But the moment you begin to examine them, the moment you decide to take conscious control of your inner world, everything changes. Today, I am going to walk you through the 9 core principles that separate the 1% mindset from everyone else. This is not a motivational speech. This is not a list of productivity hacks or weekend affirmations. This is an invitation to a mental reconstruction, a fundamental shift in the way you think, decide, and move through the world. If you are ready, let us begin. We live in the most information-saturated moment in human history. Every second of every day, an endless stream of opinions, headlines, outrage, and entertainment is flowing directly into your mind. Social media feeds engineered to trigger your dopamine. News cycles designed not to inform you, but to keep you anxious and clicking. Notifications pulling your attention in 20 different directions before you have even finished your morning coffee. The result? Most people's minds have become a dumping ground for other people's thoughts, other people's fears, and other people's dramas. In the middle of all that digital fog, hearing your own voice, forming your own genuine perspective, becomes almost impossible. The 99% become a part of the noise. They talk about what everyone is talking about. They feel outraged about what they have been told to feel outraged about. They desire what they have been shown to desire. They do not think, they echo, and they do not even realize it, because the noise is so constant, so all-encompassing, that it has simply become the background of their entire lives. The 1% mindset does something radically different. It deliberately steps back from the flood, not to disconnect from the world, that is not the goal, but to become intentional about what is allowed inside. Think of it like a master craftsman's workshop. A serious craftsman does not let just anything through the door. Only the finest materials, the most useful tools, the things that actually serve the work. Everything else stays outside. The 1% mind operates the same way. It curates its inputs. It decides, consciously, deliberately, what deserves mental real estate and what does not. It is guided by an internal compass rather than the roar of external approval. Because it understands something the 99% never stop to consider. The road that everyone is rushing down usually leads somewhere ordinary. The real opportunities, the unexpected ones, the transformative ones, are hidden in the quiet paths that the crowd has not bothered to look at. Think of your mind as a garden. If you never pull the weeds, they will eventually take over every inch of ground. The valuable plants, your original ideas, your clarity, your deepest convictions, will have no room to grow. Silencing the noise is not about building walls. It is about opening space. Space for your own thoughts. Space for the kind of deep, undistracted reflection that almost no one in the modern world gives themselves permission to do. Start today. Choose what you let in, because what fills your mind shapes your world. Almost everyone you know sets goals. Big ones, bold ones, the kind that sound impressive when you say them out loud. Write a book, launch a business, get in the best shape of your life, build financial freedom. And almost everyone follows the same invisible script. They visualize the destination, feel a rush of motivation, take a few steps toward it, and then, when the reality of how long and difficult the road actually is begins to sink in, they stop. Because their motivation was built on desire for the result, and desire fades. Desire is not an engine, it is a spark, and sparks burn out. The 1% mindset is built on something far more durable. They do not live for outcomes, they live for systems. They do not wait for the day when everything is finally achieved. They fall in love with the daily, unglamorous, repetitive practice of doing the work. Not the destination, but the discipline itself. Think about the master woodworkers of early America, the craftsmen who built the furniture, the ships, the structures that shaped a nation. A true master did not sit down each morning dreaming about the masterpiece he would one day create. He picked up his tools and performed the same precise, patient motions hundreds of times with the same careful attention. The masterpiece was never the goal. It was the byproduct. What made him a master was not a single brilliant creation. It was the system he had practiced across thousands of days. That is the power of the 1% mindset.
They do not wait for inspiration. They do not wait for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, the perfect conditions. Whether they feel like it or not, the system runs. Want to write? They write 1 page every single day. Want to get healthier? They move their body for 10 minutes no matter what. Not because 10 minutes changes everything in an instant, but because they understand something deeper. They know that great outcomes are not the product of dramatic leaps. They are the product of small, consistent actions that compound quietly over time. The system becomes your compass when your emotions try to lead you off course. When you are exhausted, when you are discouraged, when doubt creeps in at 2 in the morning and whispers that none of this is worth it, the system tells you exactly what to do. It removes the decision. It removes the negotiation. It simply runs. Build your system. Forget the outcome. Take today's small step. Tomorrow, take it again. And 1 year from now, when you look back at how far you have traveled, you will not be able to believe that those small, quiet, unremarkable daily actions brought you here. Drop 333. My system is stronger than my excuses. In the comments right now. Every single one of us carries a finite reserve of emotional energy. Think of it as capital, like money in a bank account. You have a certain amount available each day, and where you spend that capital determines the quality of your life more directly than almost any other factor. The 99% bleed this capital on things that offer no return. A confrontation in traffic, an argument in a comment section, a passive-aggressive remark from a coworker, a cutting comment from someone who does not matter. They spend the entire day reacting, burning through their emotional reserves on situations they cannot control, people who are not worth the energy, and conflicts that will mean nothing in 6 months. And by the time evening comes and they are faced with the things that actually matter, their relationships, their real work, their deepest aspirations, they have nothing left. The 1% mindset operates like a sophisticated investor. It knows exactly which emotions and reactions deserve this precious capital and which do not. They are not calm
because they feel nothing. They are calm because they have learned to be the masters of what they feel rather than the servants of it. When someone speaks to them with contempt or hostility, they do not reach for a matching reaction. They see it for what it is, a reflection of that person's own unresolved inner conflict, a projection, something that belongs entirely to the other person and has nothing to do with them. So they do not engage. They do not waste the energy. They simply keep moving toward their work, their values, their path. Because they understand something that most people never learn. The most powerful response to anyone who has wronged you is not retaliation. It is an extraordinary life and an unshakable inner peace. That is the kind of victory no one can take from you. Guard your emotional capital. Pull back from the arguments that drain you without feeding you. Walk away from the people and situations that leave you smaller than you arrived. Invest your energy in the things that build you, the work that challenges you, the relationships that restore you, the habits that strengthen you. And remember this: the decision made in the center of anger almost always becomes tomorrow's regret. The decision made from a place of stillness and clarity, that is wisdom. If you have found this kind of thinking valuable, share this video with someone in your life who needs to hear it. And if you are not yet part of the Carl Jung philosophy community, subscribe now, because this is only the beginning of what we explore together. Comfort zone. Even the name sounds appealing. Safety, warmth, familiarity, the sense that everything is under control and nothing unexpected is coming. But here is what almost no one tells you. Your comfort zone is not a sanctuary. It is a cemetery. It is the place where your potential is quietly buried while you tell yourself that you are being reasonable and responsible. Growth does not happen inside the comfort zone. Growth cannot happen inside it, by definition, because growth requires resistance, and the comfort zone is specifically engineered to eliminate resistance. The 99% spend their entire lives in this safe harbor. They are afraid to step toward the unfamiliar, afraid to make mistakes, afraid to look foolish or uncertain. They tell themselves they are being cautious, when in reality, they are slowly shrinking. Every year, the gap between who they are and who they could have become grows a little wider, and they feel it, even if they cannot name it. The 1% mindset treats the comfort zone as an opponent. Deliberately and regularly, they put themselves into situations that are unfamiliar, uncomfortable, and demanding. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand that every time you push through a moment of difficulty, you are conditioning your mind and body to not quit when it matters. You are training yourself at a neurological level to respond to challenge with capability rather than retreat. This looks different for everyone. Maybe it is learning a skill you know nothing about. Maybe it is raising your hand for the project that intimidates you. Maybe it is having the conversation you have been avoiding for months. Maybe it is something as simple as a cold shower, a daily voluntary encounter with discomfort that tells your nervous system, I decide what is hard for me, not you. The goal is not discomfort for its own sake. The goal is to make your mind fluent in difficulty, so that when genuine challenges arrive, and they always do, you have already rehearsed them. The crises that paralyze the average person become, for you, just another training session, because you have been meeting smaller versions of them every single day, entirely by choice. Today, right now, do the one thing you have been putting off. Make the call. Send the message. Take the first step you have been negotiating with yourself about for weeks. Every time you push against the boundary of your comfort zone, you are not just doing a task. You are demolishing a wall of your own prison. Write 11. I am the architect of my own awakening, in the comments below. This is just who I am. That sentence, that quiet, devastating sentence. It is one of the most destructive things a human being can say to themselves. because it treats identity as something fixed, something handed to you by your past, something that cannot be questioned or rewritten. Most people are living inside an identity they never consciously chose. It was assembled from old experiences, from the labels others applied to them in childhood or adolescence, from failures they took too personally and successes they dismissed too quickly. I am shy. I am not disciplined. I am not the kind of person who finishes things. These beliefs harden over time. They stop being beliefs and become facts, or so the mind insists. And they shape every behavior, every decision, every reaction, without most people ever stopping to examine them. The 1% mindset understands something fundamentally different. Identity is not inherited. It is constructed. It is a choice and an ongoing act of deliberate creation. They do not wait to become who they want to be. They decide who they want to be and begin acting from that identity immediately. Every decision they make is a vote cast for the person they are building themselves into. They do not ask, "What do I feel like doing right now?" They ask, "What would the person I am becoming do in this moment?" Want to become someone with deep discipline? When everything in you resists, ask that question. What would a genuinely disciplined person choose right now? And then choose it. Not because it is easy, but because every time you choose it, you are rewiring the neural pathways that define who you are. This is not pretending. This is not performing a version of yourself that does not exist yet. This is the actual mechanism by which the brain creates lasting change. The neuroscience is clear. Behavior shapes identity just as much as identity shapes behavior. When you act in alignment with the person you want to become, consistently, repeatedly, even imperfectly, your brain begins to recognize that identity as real. First, you build the identity. Then the identity builds the life. Ask yourself right now, not someday, not after the next milestone, who do I actually want to become? Healthy, present, disciplined, financially free, creatively alive. Whatever your answer, bring it into this moment, into this decision, into this choice between the easy thing and the right thing. Because the gap between who you are and who you could be is not filled by grand gestures. It is filled one quiet, deliberate choice at a time. Here is one of the most overlooked divides between the 1% and everyone else. How far ahead they are willing to think. Most people live in a time horizon of days or weeks. The next paycheck, the weekend, the show they are streaming tonight. Every decision they make is filtered through one simple question. What will make me feel better right now? Or What will help me avoid discomfort right now? This is not laziness. It is simply the default setting of an unexamined mind. It is how we are wired, unless we deliberately override it. Living in that narrow tunnel means you can only see a few feet ahead. And when you can only see a few feet ahead, the short term always wins. The easy meal, the skipped workout, the avoided conversation, the purchase that felt satisfying for 20 minutes. Small gratifications that quietly erode the future you say you want. The 1% mindset thinks in years, decades, sometimes generations. Their time horizon extends far beyond the immediate. They are willing to plant trees whose shade they may never sit under. They are willing to invest years of work into something that will not pay off for a decade. They are willing to experience significant discomfort today because they can see with absolute clarity what that discomfort is building toward. And that vision, that long, patient, sustained view of the future, changes every single decision they make today. Think of the American farmers and settlers of past centuries who planted oak trees, knowing those trees would not reach their full height in their own lifetimes. They patent stay anyway, not for themselves, for the ones who would come after. That is not sacrifice. That of a 1% relationship with time. Before every significant decision you make, ask yourself one question. Does this serve who I am in a month or who I am in 10 years? That connecting question is a filter that will protect you from more short-term traps than almost any other habit you could develop. It will reveal which of your choices are actually investments and which ones are just comfortable distractions dressed up to look like progress. Extend your time horizon. Think further. Plant more. Because the most meaningful things in life are never built overnight. And the people who understand that are the ones who actually build them. Most people are paralyzed by risk, not because they cannot calculate it, but because they have never been taught to distinguish between the different kinds of risk. To them, risk is one thing, the possibility of loss. And since loss is painful, risk is to be avoided. So they stay in the familiar lane, the safe job, the known path, the expected outcome. And year after year, they wonder why their life never seems to expand. The 1% mindset does not avoid risk. It manages risk, and more specifically, it seeks out what are called asymmetric opportunities. What is an asymmetric opportunity? It is a situation where the potential downside is limited and contained, but the potential upside is enormous. The cost of losing is small. The cost of winning is life-changing. Here is an example. Investing a few $100s and several weeks of focused effort to learn a high-demand skill through an online course. What is the worst case? You spend the money and the time, the course does not work for you, and you move on. That is a manageable loss. But the best case? That skill opens a career path you never had access to before. It doubles your income. It gives you leverage you never had. It reshapes the entire trajectory of your professional life. The potential gain dwarfs the potential loss by an enormous margin. The 1% mindset actively fills life with these kinds of bets. Testing a business concept with a small initial budget. Reaching out to someone whose work you deeply admire, even if the response might be silence. Showing up at a conference where you know no one. Each of these actions carries a modest, bearable downside and a potentially transformative upside. Begin looking at your life through this lens. Where can you risk a little, genuinely a little, for the possibility of gaining something that would change everything? These openings exist in almost every area of your life. The ones who find them are not luckier than you. They have simply trained themselves to see them. Seek these moments, and when you find them, take the step. Because even one asymmetric bet that pays off has the power to alter the entire course of a life. Comment 777. I am ready to expand beyond what I thought was possible. Below this video. Here is one of the most insidious traps that success sets for us. The moment a person reaches a certain level of achievement, a certain status, a certain degree of recognition, the temptation arrives to believe that they have arrived, that they know enough, that the learning phase is behind them, and the living phase has begun. The ego offers this belief as a reward for hard work, and for many people, they accept it without question. It is a trap, and it is the beginning of irrelevance, because the world does not stop changing to accommodate your credentials. The skills that made someone exceptional 5 years ago may be obsolete today. The knowledge that was cutting edge a decade ago may be misleading now. The moment you stop learning is the moment you begin, slowly and invisibly, to fall behind. The 1% mindset commits to being a lifelong apprentice, not as a performance of humility, but as a genuine recognition that no matter how much you know, the territory of what you do not yet know is always, always larger. They surround themselves with people who are smarter than them, more experienced than them, more knowledgeable in specific domains. They ask questions without embarrassment. They say, "I don't know," without shame. They are willing to be complete beginners in a new field, even if they are masters in another, because they understand that true wisdom is precisely the recognition of how much remains to be understood. Carl Jung himself, one of the most original and prolific thinkers of the 20th century, spent his entire life as a student of the psyche. He never stopped being curious. He never stopped asking. He never stopped revising his understanding in the light of new evidence and deeper experience. That insatiable curiosity was not separate from his greatness. It was the engine of it. Adopt this mindset. Read something outside your comfort zone. Listen to a podcast from a perspective you have never considered. Watch a documentary on a subject you know nothing about. Sit across from someone with a completely different life experience and actually listen, not to respond, but to understand. Every person you meet knows something you do not. Every experience, if approached with curiosity rather than conclusion, has something to teach. The apprentice mindset keeps you humble, adaptable, and perpetually growing. And in a world that changes as rapidly as ours does, that perpetual growth is one of the most powerful advantages you can carry. We live in a civilization that has declared war on silence. Every empty moment is immediately filled. A notification, a playlist, a scroll through content engineered to hold your attention indefinitely. The moment a pause appears in your day, the reflex is automatic. Reach for the phone, turn on something, find stimulation. The idea of simply being alone, with no input, no distraction, no external noise, has become deeply uncomfortable for most people, almost threatening. For the 99%, solitude feels like a problem to be solved, a gap to be filled, a sign that something has gone wrong. For the 1% mindset, solitude is one of the most powerful strategic tools available. Not isolation, not withdrawal from life. Deliberately chosen solitude. Time carved out with intention, protected from interruption, given over entirely to deep thinking, reflection, and the kind of inner listening that the noise of modern life makes nearly impossible. Here is what almost no one realizes. The most original ideas, the clearest strategies, the most accurate decisions, they do not emerge in the middle of the crowd. They emerge in the quiet, in the stillness, in those rare moments when you have finally stopped feeding your mind external input long enough for your own genuine insights to surface. Carl Jung was deeply attentive to this truth. His years of intense inner work, much of it done in deliberate solitude at his retreat in Bollingen, Switzerland, were not years of withdrawal from the world. They were years of the most demanding engagement imaginable. Engagement with his own unconscious, his own patterns, his own deepest wisdom. And it was precisely that inward journey that produced some of the most enduring ideas in the history of psychology. The 1% mindset uses solitude to do the same. In the quiet, they hear their own voice clearly enough to trust it. They are not moved by consensus or swept along by what everyone else seems to think is true, because they have done the inner work to know what they actually believe. Give yourself 15 minutes today. No phone, no music, no podcast. Just you and your own thoughts. At first, the mind will resist. It will jump from thought to thought, looking for stimulation it has been trained to expect. That is fine. Let it. Stay with it. Over time, and it does not take as long as you might think, these 15 minutes will become the most valuable part of your entire day. When you learn to go deep inside yourself, you stop drowning in the shallow waters of the outside world. You develop an inner stillness that no external chaos can fully reach. You stop being moved by every wind of opinion, every shift in the social weather, every voice that tells you who you should be. Do not be afraid of your own company. Master the art of being alone, because the person who cannot travel inward will never truly arrive anywhere that matters. These 9 principles will not transform your life overnight. There is no version of this that is instant or effortless, and anyone who promises you otherwise is selling you something that does not exist. What these principles are, what they actually represent, is a lifelong practice. A set of mental muscles that are built through daily, patient, unglamorous repetition. Through the mornings you do not feel like it. Through the seasons when nothing seems to be working. Through the long stretches between the visible milestones. But here is what I need you to understand before you close this video. The moment you begin, truly begin, to adopt even one of these principles, something shifts. Not in your circumstances, not immediately in your results, but in the quality of your relationship with yourself. You stop feeling like a passenger in your own story. You stop waiting for someone or something outside of you to give your life direction and meaning. You begin to move through the world with a different kind of weight, an intentionality, a groundedness, a quiet certainty that most people never develop in an entire lifetime. Carl Jung believed that the greatest challenge any human being faces is not the world outside. It is the interior world, the unconscious patterns, the unexamined beliefs, the unlived life buried beneath the surface of who we think we are. He called it the individuation process, the lifelong journey of becoming, fully and consciously, who you actually are. That journey is not a straight line. It is not clean. It is not comfortable. But it is the only journey that truly matters. Because at the end of it, if you have the courage to take it, you will not find a better version of someone else. You will find yourself, fully, authentically, irreducibly. You will not be a victim of events anymore. You will be the architect of your life. The world around you may not change, but the way you see it, the way you move through it, and the place you hold within it, that will change, irrevocably, permanently, and for the better. If these ideas have moved something in you, if they have named something you have felt but never quite articulated, leave a comment below and tell us which of these 9 principles hit you the hardest. Your reflection matters. Your story matters. And someone else reading your words may find exactly the courage they needed to take their next step. If this is your first time visiting Carl Jung philosophy, welcome. Subscribe and join a community of people committed to understanding the deepest dimensions of human experience. Not just the surface, but the roots. Not just the symptoms, but the source. The door is open. The path is yours. All that remains is the decision to walk it. There is one thing that every person who has ever genuinely changed their life has in common. Not intelligence, not talent, not privilege or timing, or a fortunate set of circumstances. The one thing they share is a single moment, a moment that looked completely unremarkable from the outside, in which they made a private, internal decision that something was going to be different. Not someday, not when things get easier, not when they feel more ready or more motivated or more certain about the outcome. Now, this moment, with exactly what they have, exactly where they are. That decision is available to you right now. Not tomorrow morning when you have had a good night's sleep and the world feels more manageable. Not after the next setback has passed or the next season of life begins. Right now, in this exact moment, with whatever uncertainty and doubt and unresolved fear is sitting in your chest, you can make that decision. The 1% mindset does not begin with mastery, it begins with a choice. A quiet, non-negotiable, internal declaration that you are no longer willing to be a passenger in your own existence. That the story you have been telling yourself about who you are and what is possible for you is not the final word. That the patterns you inherited from your past, from your family, from the culture that shaped you, are not your destiny unless you decide they are. Carl Jung called this the moment of individuation, the moment a person stops living a borrowed life and begins the courageous, uncertain, irreplaceable work of living their own. That moment is not behind you. It is not in front of you somewhere in the future. It is here. It is now. It is this. The only question that remains is whether you are ready to say yes to it.